Hi, my name's Gordon, and I greet you from Cape Town, South Africa, right down at the tip, in a little community called Hout Bay. I'm really pleased to be able to join in the 28 days here of prayers for forgiveness and healing, the Ho'oponopono. And as I was thinking about today's meditation and perhaps the prayer that I could bring to it, I thought, it makes sense to do it from my context. And it'll be beautiful to hear everyone else's meditation and prayer from their context. I live in a small town. It's bounded by mountains and an ocean. And this town is in many ways a microcosm of the macrocosm of our world. We're one community, very defined, but we're also deeply divided along lines that are economic, that are ethnic, that are historical, that are social. We have in our little town people that are billionaires. And right across the street from me, more than 20,000 people living in shacks. Maybe 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters, entire families in them, no running water, no toilets. 20,000 beautiful human beings from South Africa and from as many as 12 other nations who are here for economic and political reasons. And as we try to be community here, as we try to live in the integrity of what it means to love your neighbor as you love yourself, the Ho'oponopono becomes quite specific, quite meaningful. It carries a kind of a plumb line, really, for us here, for me here. So let me maybe just reflect a little bit on that as the meditation today, and thank you for walking along this with me. I thought about going across the street actually and just sitting in one of the shacks and doing the meditation from there, but I think it's maybe easier just to keep focus. We live in a day globally that is more and more marked by, I think, cruelty, separation, a kind of clear set of identity markers of who we are and who we aren't. I'm from this nation. I have this heritage. This is what runs in my blood. This is my soil. This is my belief. This is my story. My father's story, my grandmother's story, my great-grandfather's story. And it seems that we're living out today so much of the arrogance and the lostness of who we are, and the fear, the deep ingrained fear of the other, which probably at its core is a deep unsettledness about who we are, right? Perhaps even a fear of who we are. And we take these agendas for a kind of world we wish to live in that actually excludes most of the others who live in this world. And we define community and our rights and our borders and our institutions around that pursuit. And we have this strange and false notion that peace comes at the expense of others, that peace comes when we push others' humanity away. And in the process, our higher selves, our most beautiful, gifted self, and the higher selves of those around us isn't what is invited out. I like to say to myself that we live in this infinite moment. You know, every moment is an invitation to all that the universe holds. And its incredible expansiveness. We can go down to these micro units of definition into the billions and billions and billions of light years of expanse. And in all of that, we have the invitation to draw on a deep and abiding sense of who we are as community, because we are in relationship to all this. And yet, for some reason, we live in this modern time where we draw on a very, very narrow band of identity and belonging. And in that process, with our knives and our swords, we cut people out, we cut people in half. We destroy those who are a different color, a different gender, a different nationality, a different economical story or view of this earth. Certainly, you know, we haven't even chatted about the animals and the trees and all the rest that makes up this marvelous creation. And I think of the Ho'oponopono, it takes us in the opposite direction of what this modern story is doing, doesn't it? It invites out a gentleness, some self-reflection and accountability. It invites us away from that small, pithy story that says, I am this, you know, this little box. And you know, I won't look outside it. It's like these permanent blinders. And you're this little box, right? And that's how you have to live. And that's, your heart has to be small and squished and put inside that space. My generosity can't exist in such a small space, so I have to eliminate it, right? The wide-reaching arms that says, all this world is my neighborhood. It's all pushed away when we live inside a small box of definition of who I am and who I can be in this space called this world. So I live in a community where language is used to describe people that live in shacks. It's denigrating language, separating language, racist language, arrogant language. And then the language that really matters is how we talk with our feet, right? Where we go, where we don't go. How our routines include or exclude. How our thoughts of the future invite or disinvite. And so the Ho'oponopono offers me, in all this rough and tumble of the world, some possibility of expansion, some possibility of inclusion, some possibility of humility and community and welcome for what sits outside me, because it begins with this assumption that I've excluded, right? That I have done things to the other that are harmful. And so it begins with this grand, open, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not a pithy little I'm sorry. It's I'm sorry. How beautiful. I'm sorry. And it doesn't leave us dangling there. It calls us into a deeper space of acknowledging our accountability in the I'm sorry. Because it asks genuinely. It's not forced. It's not a condition. It's a heart breath. Please forgive me. You know, it's owning our role in how we have made this world. This thing wasn't pushed on all of us, folks. We've made it thus, generation after generation after generation. We've taken the old stories, we've taken the old definitions of self, the old barriers, the old walls, the old war wounds, and we've stirred it all into this brew of me and my rights and my country and my blood, my language, my gender, my belief. And we wounded the rest because of it, right? Yeah. So please forgive me is saying, I'm done with that story. That identity doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for our future, it doesn't work for our kids or our grandkids, it doesn't work for our earth. And we're acknowledging we have advanced the story. Please forgive me, you see. I love that. So for me, it calls me to a beautiful place of accountability and also possibility. Because when I'm free to acknowledge that story that I continue to push or hold on to or require others to live out is something I need forgiveness for. Not just like, oops, sorry, no, I need forgiveness for it, and to ask for it specifically and generally. What a beautiful thing from that Ho'oponopono. And to show our gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for hearing my apology, and thank you for offering forgiveness, which, by the way, puts back also into the rest of the community who listens to the prayer that forgiveness is part of the prayer too, isn't it? It's not just the receiving, it's also the giving. So thank you. Thank you for acknowledging my humanity. Thank you for acknowledging this mess and this tangle and my complicity. And then the final part of the prayer, I love you. Wow. That one, hey? Because the question that we will never get to the bottom of, who is my neighbor? And then how do I love my neighbor as I love myself? For some reason we live in a world that doesn't ask us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. It certainly doesn't even ask us to love ourselves. We celebrate the heroes of war and weaponry. We celebrate the giants of engineers who construct these towers that are monuments of consumption, the malls, the buildings, the systems, those ways we belch poison into the earth and skies and the rivers and the oceans. And we have this absurd notion of progress. Perhaps the single most addictive behavior in the human dilemma is to take in more and more with the lie that this is progress, right? And so we celebrate somehow that we are better than the rest that have come before. That's a form of arrogance. It's a form of identity, the box we live in. We are those who have progressed. We are somehow spiritually, intellectually, socially, culturally superior to all who've come before. That's what progress implies. Any medical breakthrough, any engineering breakthrough, it's progress. A new weapon, it's progress. A new way to deliver water, because we really messed up all the water that came before us. Progress. It's separation, that word. It's telling us we are superior to all who have gone before us. And by the way, that gives amazing permission to us to destroy indigenous peoples, doesn't it? It gives us incredible permission to be oppressors of others on other lands, on outer order systems, in other parts of the world, and right across the street to our neighbors, because we are those who've progressed. And there's this implied notion in that others just have to catch up or be like us, which justifies everything about our lifestyle that's harming others. I love you means letting go of the notion of progress. It does. Because progress is not our friend. Progress is the permission to harm our neighbor. That's all that it is. So the Ho'oponopono reaches all the way back to our ancestors, those indigenous folk from far, far beyond our memory, up to the present, even reaching into the future. And it says, we are all one. There's no superiority in any ethnicity, in any story. We're all one. There's no progress. Every day of every moment, our high self is called forward. Who I am today, who we are today. Not because we're better than previous generations or better than indigenous people whose lands we've stolen, whose stories we've erased, whose way of living we've made cute and put in museums and said, look how beautiful these primitive people were. To love our neighbor as we love ourselves, to let go of this notion of progress, and to find how we can learn from all who've ever lived on this beautiful earth, and how we can be people who live in such a way that it honors all, that it honors everyone who lives across me, street from me in shacks. It honors people from other nations, from other parts of our nation, other truths, other systems of economy. And it brings this beautiful shared humility and true community to us, right? I love you. I love you as I love myself. And you love me as you love yourself. That's what the Ho'oponopono is asking for. So the accountability. I'm sorry. Please forgive me the deep understanding of what it means to be sorry. Thank you. Acknowledging the gratitude, both directions. And may I live my life in such a way that I truly, truly love my neighbor as I love myself. Have a beautiful day, and thank you for letting me be with you.